from the grassroots. Next slide, please. Yeah, put on the slide. Yeah. So when we talk of safety in industry, what it means, it's safety of whom? Safety of men, machine, and material. And the method adopted to follow safety is for the betterment of all these three. Why? Because man works in the vicinity of the machine and in tandem with the material. So everyone is at risk in the organization. When a man works on the machine, if the machine is in a dangerous condition, a man is at risk. If the material is hazardous, again the man is at risk. So everywhere when we see, it is basically the coordination between men, machine, and material. So we need not focus only on men, but we need to look at the machine, material. And to bring all this together, we need to have a proper documented procedure, which is the methodology which we need to follow for safety. Next slide, please. When we talk of safety, it's not only accident prevention. We call industrial safety as total loss control. Why total loss control? Our focus should be on accident prevention, fire prevention, and property damage prevention. Again, as I told you, it is men, machine, and material. Likewise, basically, when we talk of any accident, it can result in a harm to the men, the property, or the equipment, whatever is there inside the plant. Again, when we talk of fire incident, it can harm persons inside the plant. It can cause damage to the property. Property damage prevention, again, is a key part of total loss control. So let's look at it. Next slide. Why need for safety? When we talk of safety, it's not that the employer is more focused on the output. Employer is more focused on the productivity. He wants basically the money. The output, what he wants is by way of the production, productivity, and the profitability, what he derives out of the whole thing. But need for safety is because of these three reasons. First is on the humanitarian ground. No one wants to see anyone hurt. All normal persons are bound by suffering pains and miseries caused due to accident. Definitely, no one would like to see any person meeting with an accident. That's the prime reason. The second is the legal. There are legal bindings on the employer. The legal bindings start with the Factories Act 1948 and the other acts to follow. So the legal compliance is the bare minimum requirement of safety, which occupier is more concerned about safety. The economics goes to the toss if there is no safety. Because of unsafe conditions or because of unsafe act, something mishap happens or some major situation arises, then the whole economy goes to the toss. Basically, the cost goes up, the losses goes up, and there is a huge loss to the image of that particular organization. So because of the economics also, the safety is needed. Next. Let's understand some terminologies basically. When we talk of safety, the first and foremost thing comes to our mind is accident. How accident takes place? Because there must be some hazard. What is that hazard? We'll just understand the definition of hazard. A hazard is any source of potential damage, harm, or adverse health effect on something or someone under certain conditions at work. When we talk of potential damages, it can cause a harm. Probability is there. Again, the word is adverse health. Health is basically, we are talking about the occupational health, which is of a great importance. Safety, it's occupational health and safety in the industry. So hazard is a potential damage. So the condition event or circumstances that could lead to or contribute to an unplanned or undesirable event, because it is not a planned event. When we talk of resultant of hazard, it's not a planned. Unplanned is basically it is resulting into an accident or an incident or a near misses. So that's what it is, unplanned, and it is not desirable also. So this is the situation. Hazard is a situation which can arise, a source basically. Next slide, please. Exposed to danger. We get ourselves exposed to the hazard. It's a risk what we take. The chances of accident, the chances of loss because of the existing hazard. Next slide. Let's look at some examples. We have three complex hazard, example of hazard, and example of what is the harm, the ultimate harm. Workplace hazard is some things lying. Example of hazard, we can just take an example of knife or a cutter, which is being used in the industries. It can harm you in to what extent? You can get a cut injury. That's what the minimum what you can get. It can result into an amputation also to a larger extent. We'll look at some substances. Substances is the raw material, chemicals. We talk about chemicals like benzene. Benzene can cause leukemia. It's a cancer, blood cancer. Let's look at some materials. The raw material like asbestos. It can cause mesothelioma. It means basically it is causing harm to your lungs, the heart, because it causes a tumor into the heart, lungs, or abdomen, ultimately resulting into a cancer. The asbestos fiber can be that dangerous. Source of energy. The electricity is the source of energy, which can result into a shock or electrocution. Some conditions, some working conditions in the factory, wet floor, can result into a slip, fall, trip. We'll look at some processes. Some welding activity is going on. The harm which can be caused is basically metal fume fever. It is occupational hazard. Some practices, basically hard rock mining, which can result into silicosis, which is again a notifiable disease due to silica, sand material, which can go and settle into your lungs and alveoli. It can damage your alveoli. Let's look at some physical hazards. Noise is a physical hazard. Vibration, some radiation sources, temperature, pressure, the velocity, working, basically you need to work at some heights, electricity, and the physical characteristics. This can be some physical hazard which is present in any workplace. Next slide, please. We can look at some chemical hazards. Chemical hazards are some explosives, flammable liquids, some are corrosives. Those are nature of those particular chemicals, oxidizing material, toxic, carcinogenic substances, gases, and some air particulate which can again get into your body. So the chemicals can get into your body and cause harm to you. Biological hazards. It's the biological waste, the blood, some fluids from the body, discharge, some drugs, antibiotics, viruses, bacteria, parasites, some insects, poisons or diseased plants, animals. This can result into a biological, this can be a biological hazard. Next slide. We look at ergonomics. What is this ergonomics? Ergonomics is the applied science concerned with designing and arranging things people use in the workplace so that people and things interact and efficiently and safely they are operated. So there are, due to the ergonomics, there can be a physical, it can be a lead to a physical hazard, environmental, to psychosocial hazard. Let's look at it one by one. Next slide, please. Physical. The physical is basically the poor work task design. So the task is basically designed in such a fashion that a person has to stretch, the person has to bend, number of activities he has to do in a particular minute, the quantum of that activities, which can cause a physical stress to his body. The repetitive motion again can lead to a ergonomic factor. The prolonged sitting for quite a long time, suppose if a person is sitting, then he can develop an issue with his body. Poor layout, which can again cause a physical problem to a person. Poor posture can also lead to a fatigue and again some issues to his body. Improper lifting and handling can pose also a hazard to his vertebrae and to his back as well as to his body postures. Next slide, please. Let's look at psychosocial hazards, work rest cycles. The work rest cycles are not properly designed, which can again result into a fatigue sort of. Some violence, discrimination in the workplace can lead to a psychological issue to a workman or an operator, which again is termed as a hazard in the workplace. Extraneous stress, a lot of stress basically due to the work pressure. Again, this is a psychosocial hazard. Uneven workload. Even the workload is not properly distributed, which can result into a psychological problem to the workman. Lack of personal space also can be a psychosocial hazard in the workplace. Next slide, please. Environmental hazard in the workplace. What is this environmental hazard? Environment is the work environment wherein we are talking about poor lighting, a glare which can result into a strain to your eyes, poor ventilation, the air changes are not up to the mark because as per the Factories Act, there are certain number of air changes to happen in the workplace per hour. So suppose if it is below that, then there can be a issue to a person as far as his health is concerned. Poor temperature control, again RH factor, also humidity. Next part is the humidity part, that is the relative humidity, which plays a very important role as far as the body fluid is concerned. So that also can result into a fatigue to the operator or the workman who is working in the plant. Next slide, please. We have looked at one part, that is hazard, and now we are looking at the risk part of it. A possibility of danger or harm is termed as risk as far as safety is concerned. So basically, what is that danger? So we'll look at the definition. Risk is a chance or a probability that a person will be harmed or experience an adverse health effect if exposed to an hazard. So hazard is existing, and then basically the probability of the harm which is caused or the adverse health effect if exposed to the hazard, that is what is the risk. It may also apply to a situation with property or equipment loss. Next slide, please. Let's look at the assessment. When we talk of safety in the workplace, you start with risk, hazard identification, and risk assessment. You have to look at the hazard in your workplace. Each activity you have to break down, and in each activity, what is that hazard which is there, which we have to note it down, and what is the risk attached to that particular hazard has to be worked out. So that's what we are talking about. It is basically we are talking about risk as the probability of occurrences that is likelihood of occurrences and the severity of that. So basically probability into severity is the risk prior probability or a priority figure what you get. Higher the risk, more controls you need to exercise. Next slide, please. The term risk is often confused with hazard. There is many a times we talk about the word risk in place of hazard. So we'll understand it once again. A high voltage power supply, a sample of radioactive material or a toxic chemical may present a hazard. So it's a hazard, meaning that they present the potential for harm. Risk indicates probability of hazard causing the harm. So suppose if a person is exposed to that particular thing, that means he is going there with a risk. So he can basically get that because of that particular hazard, he might basically come across that particular activity, and then the resultant is the damage caused to that particular operator or the workman. So hazard, most of the time in an organization, the hazard exists, but the risk what we take has to be minimized to a larger extent. Next slide, please. Hazard is anything that can cause harm. You can already see that a chemical, electricity, a ladder. Risk is how great the chance that someone will be harmed by the hazard. So what is that basically probability of getting that is the risk factor. It is thus evidence that hazard is something we can do little about. So we can't do much about the hazard. The hazard possesses by the carcinogen, a concentrated acid or an explosive substance are inherent properties of the material, because it is the inherent property of that particular chemical, of that particular material. That's what is termed as a hazard. The risk they possess, however, can be and should be minimized by initially preparing a suitable risk assessment. So we need to minimize the risk, and then by following the procedures laid down in the assessment. So we need to minimize the risk by exercising control measures. Next slide, please. So when we talk of all this, there is a hazard, there is a risk, the resultant is what? An accident or an incident. Let's look at the terminology accident and its definition. An accident is an unintentional occurrence which may or may not result into an injury. Accident may or may not result into an injury. Because when we talk about property damage, something falls in front of you, but you are not met with an accident. That's an accident, but basically it's not an injury to a person. So accident is that property damage accident. So accident may or may not result into an injury. Accident do not happen, they are caused. Happen is basically act of God, what we say. Something is happening, so I don't have any controls on it. But no, it is, you have a controls on it, it is caused. It has got some reasons to it. That's the reason it's happening. So what are the reasons? It is caused by human or mechanical failure or failure to do or perform work. Something which has failed, that's the reason. Something which has, someone who has not obeyed the orders, someone who has worked on a machinery which is unsafe. So it is some failure of a human being or a machinery which has resulted into an accident. So that's the reason, the cause of accident. Next slide, please. We'll look at accident results from what? Accident results from deficiency in people. There is some deficiency in the people which has resulted into an accident. Deficiency means basically not following rules, again is a deficiency in the person. Working without authority is a deficiency in the people. Working on moving machinery is a deficiency in the people. So this is the deficiency in the people. Deficiency in the tools. Accident can result from the deficiency in the tool. Wrong tool used. The tool which is improper. The tool which is not up to the mark, which is broken. So this is deficiency in the improper tool. This is deficiency. Deficiency in the environment. The work environment is not conducive. What do you mean by work environment not conducive? When we talk of work environment, we are talking about the climatic condition, the condition wherein the temperature plays a very important role, the humidity plays a very important role, the noise plays a very important role, the lighting plays a very important role, the vibration plays a very important role. These are all deficiencies in the work environment which can result into an accident. Let's look how to control those things. We start with 3 E's. What are these 3 E's? Let's look at it one by one. First is the education. When we talk of education, it's not only the formal education what we are talking about. We are talking about the competency part of it. We are talking about the knowledge of it. We are talking about a person who is given training. Training is a part of education. Education means not only the academic education, but the hands-on experience or knowing about that particular machine, getting the feel of it, the knowledge part of it, knowing the SOPs is education what we are talking about. Second is the enforcement. Enforcement is basically we are talking about the various rules and regulations, various acts, various laws, some principles of the organization, some safety guidances. So these are all enforcement. Enforcement plays a very important role. Enforcement is a guide for a person to behave in that particular fashion. So enforcement again plays a very important role. Third is the engineering. The engineering control. When we talk of engineering, what do you mean by engineering? Engineering is basically we are talking about first and foremost thing. A bigger part is we are talking about the safety of the machine, the layout of that particular machine. We are talking about the machine guarding. We are talking about the noise part of it. We are talking about the overall condition of that particular equipment, the interlocks part of it. All these things is we are talking about the pressure control, various interlocks, systems. We are talking about all those things are a part and parcel of the engineering control. So all these three put together will help an organization to improve their safety standards. And these are the bare minimum things which any organization should lay and ensure that their employees or the workers, they follow this proper procedure. Next slide, please. Let's look at some theories. Because why do you talk about theories? Because it's a historical information or a historical data which has been derived through some experiments, through samplings. So let's look at the Henry's theory, what it talks about. This is known as accident triangle or Dr. Henry's theory. We can see the base of this particular triangle wherein we can see unsafe acts and unsafe conditions which are at the base. So above that we can see some figure number 300, which is we have noted it as near misses. 29 is non-reportable accidents and 1 is the lost time injury. So our focus is whenever we talk about a performance of any organization, first and foremost thing is there is no accident happening in our organization for the last so many years. Million man hours work, so many million man hours work without a single lost time injury. That is what reflects and that is what is talked as the performance of any organization. But in today's time, this is misnomer, this is wrong. Because our focus should be always on the base of the triangle. Our focus should be on the unsafe act and unsafe condition. So these unsafe act and unsafe conditions are, we talk about it as a leading indicator. And the accident, what we are talking about is a lagging indicator, which has already taken place. So we do is that we react, we have a reactive approach towards, but when we look at the base, our action is a proactive action. Something hazard is there, some unsafe act is there performed by the employee. We need to correct those things before anything goes wrong or before any incident takes place. That's what we are talking about is as a proactive step. So our focus should be always on the base of the triangle. This is what Hendrich has shown, because Hendrich says if there is one accident, so definitely there are so many number of unsafe acts and unsafe conditions which are going unnoticed. So our focus should be in the base. So it basically he has given us a ready-made formula how to work upon the improvement of your safety system in your organization. So I will give you one example, a simple example, very common example, which can talk about all these things, 4 stages: unsafe act and unsafe condition. There is a slippery floor. A slippery floor is an unsafe condition. What person does is that, suppose there is a slippery floor, a person walks on it, he controls himself and he clears that and he goes away. But he doesn't report that to any person. He has not, the condition has not resulted in with any small injury, neither near miss to certain extent, because that should be termed as a near miss, because the condition was unsafe and then he slipped, he controlled himself, but he doesn't report that. It is a near miss, but it is not getting reported. That means it goes unnoticed. Suppose if you would have reported it, so that could have been corrected there and there itself. The same condition is there. A person walks on it, slips. He slips down and then he gets some bruises, some scratches, and all those things. He takes a small first aid. That is, again, the condition is same. It has resulted into a first aid accident or a first aid injury. Again, suppose the same condition is there, it can result into a fracture to a certain extent at times. So it can be a lost time injury. And the same condition can result into a fatality also. At from what height you slip and come down and you hit against what, we never know. So the same condition, the slippery floor, can result into a fatality also to a certain extent. So the condition is same, but the consequence can be nothing will happen. A small injury can happen. It can result into a fracture. It can result into a fatality to a certain extent. So immediately once you see this, it has to be reported and it has to be set right. That's what is being talked about as far as the condition improvement is concerned. The whole focus should be on the unsafe act and unsafe condition. Next slide, please. Let's look at the agencies of accident. Social environment. A person is in a social environment, right? Because what do you mean by social environment? Because person comes to the work, he is working, as he has to be physically present. Not nowadays in COVID because you work from home, but when we talk of any plant, we have to be present, physically present and give output by way of production. Then only you are paid. But nowadays, basically, we are talking about work from home is administrative activities, but not the productive activity as far as the production is concerned, the output is concerned. So, person has to physically come to work. That's more needed. He is on the machine. He being a social, his mind is wandering here and there. You never know. You don't have control. No one has. His immediate boss, the supervisor, doesn't have control on his mind, on the operator's mind. He himself doesn't have a control on his mind because he must be busy or he has some bad experiences last night or some somebody must be sick in his home. By some or the other reasons, basically he must be tense, but physically he has to be present on the machine. in that particular condition, personal fault can happen. What do you mean by personal fault? The personal fault is basically, we are talking about the person is, he is highly skilled person. Highly skilled person. So what he does is that when we talk about highly skilled person, he gives more output. How does he give more output? Basically, so he does a lot of activities skillfully, and the number of actions he does is more in his case rather than a normal person. So in that case, basically mind and body has to get tuned up. As he is mentally disturbed, he can create a fault. The fault is basically due to mismatch of his body and mind. The mismatch of his body and mind and prevailing unsafe conditions. Like I will give an example of basically working on a sewing machinery, some packing machines. He is working on the packing machine, and the packing machine gives some stroke. And he has to do that activity in so skillful manner that at times they do such activities during the machine is running, they put their hand inside the machine and remove something. Some activities they do in the skillful manner, and because that particular condition and the act what he does is unsafe on a regular basis. But today, and he is being tolerated by his higher ups because he is an expert person, he is a good operator and with a lot of experience. So for all these reasons, his actions of unsafe goes unnoticed by his higher up to a certain extent. In that case, when his mind and body doesn't match, doesn't synchronize, the same, and he creates a fault because of this unsafe act and or unsafe condition, it can result into an accident. An accident will result into an injury. So basically, this is the vicious cycle, what we talk about. Like you need to have a proper body and mind tuned together, and the condition being not conducive. That means unsafe conditions or unsafe act created by a person can result into an accident. This is what Dr. Henry talked about. Next slide, please. Again, this is the domino theory. How injury takes place. You talk about safety in your organization. You say you have a safety culture. Your equipments and facilities are properly safe, are safe. You have a better management system, safe management system. At-risk behavior is going unnoticed to a certain extent, and then it can result into an accident. So this is the domino theory. One topples, whole thing topples, and then it can result into an injury. So you need to look at all those things should be at their own place. Nothing should be compromised to any extent, which in turn can result into an injury. When we talk of injury, we are not talking about the small thing. Small is also an accident, and bigger part is also an catastrophe is also an accident. So here it can lead to whatever extent, can go to any extent, looking at the gravity and the intensity and the type of processes. In a chemical industry, a small basically fault can result into a major disaster. Next slide, please. We'll look at principles of accident prevention. How the accident can be prevented. Our focus should be on the prevention part. We are talking about create and maintain interest of importance of safety in employees. We have to always do that. Always do that. Safety is not a rocket science. Safety is simple steps, a procedure you need to follow along with your standard operating procedure. So you have to create interest in employees as far as following safety is concerned. How do you create interest in employees? You have to make them involved in the activity. Take their opinion in the work process. Involve them in various safety activities, various safety projects. make them a part and parcel of the safety committees. Take their suggestions, take their ideas, implement those ideas, conduct some inter-department competitions. All those things will create an interest. You need to have a drive of promotion of safety. Second, fact finding, accident prevention, fact finding. Why we are talking about fact finding? Always when we talk of anything happens, any untoward happens, probe into that, investigate that. When you investigate, don't talk about the fault of a person. Look at the fact, what has happened. We always, what we do is that we just jump into the conclusion. Go for YY analysis, wherein you will come to know the root cause. Always look at the root, do the root cause analysis for even a smaller incident which has not resulted into an injury. Not necessarily it has to result into an injury or an accident, but something untoward has happened. Go into the deeper part of it and do a YY analysis and look at the fact of what is that which has resulted into this particular incident. Next, implement control measures and protection. Always, once you do this root cause analysis, you have to have those control measures. You have to tighten those controls. What is that control measures? We look at further, but the control measures has to be tightened in a proper fashion. When we talk of control measures tightening, we need to look at the documentation part of it. We need to change the SOPs. We need to ensure that the SOPs are being followed. We need to draw up a check sheet and ensure that it is religiously followed by one and all. And when we talk of anything happening in the organization or for that matter in any department, the same thing has to be let known to all the shifts in that particular department. If it is at a bigger size and which can be standardized all over the organization, a smaller type of any unsafe act or unsafe condition, it can be circulated across the industry, across the factory, so that each and every person gets alert and then he changes his set of procedures. So standardization also plays a very important role as far as safety is concerned. So prevention and protection. When we talk of prevention, control measures is one thing. Preventive measures. Preventive measures is basically you have a set of rules, you have set up a guidelines before anything goes wrong. So those are basically steps to be followed by you, which is to be religiously followed and it becomes a part of your SOP. Safety line management function. This is very, very important because many a times we have seen accident happens. Who is responsible? Safety officer is responsible. What the safety officer? Safety officer is the culprit when accident takes place. And then how it is basically investigated, investigates the accident. Even the departmental person at times is not the topmost person, the production manager is not aware of some accident has taken place in his department. Absolutely wrong. When we talk of safety, it is the responsibility of the line function. When we talk of line function is the department wherein that particular accident or the incident has taken place. The responsibility of safety lies with all the functional heads and not with the safety officer. Safety officer is only an advisory function. He has to do a lot more other things. Like production, the production head is responsible for safety. So safety is one of the activity of the production manager or the production function, and the safety officer's responsibility is basically how to enrich safety activities, how to see that the safety standards are improved in that department. That is the safety officer's job. His focus should be on the improvement part of it, and anything goes wrong, what procedures has to be followed is purely the job of the line function, which is the functional head activity. and each and every accident has to be investigated by the line function, followed by the safety function, who has to give his command and see that how the same type of accident is not repeated in future. Next slide, please. Next slide. This is a traditional set of things, like cause of accident. As we have seen, accidents do not happen, they are caused. So when we talk of cause, there is a reason to it. We'll look at broader part of the reasons. One is due to unsafe condition, and second is due to unsafe act. Unsafe condition is the environmental condition, the workplace condition is called a condition. And unsafe act is act of a person. Now, this being a traditional, now when we talk of safety under behavioral base, all things what we talk about is the unsafe act. The unsafe act either of the management or of a person. So here we are referring to the management as far as the traditional thing is concerned. The unsafe condition, about 15% of the accidents, total accidents, are due to unsafe condition, in spite of major unsafe conditions prevailing in most of the organization. Let's look at each of these. What do you mean by working condition? Improper guarded agency. The machineries are not properly guarded. The responsibility of the management to provide secured machines. So suppose sometimes the machines are unguarded, some machines are inadequately guarded. So again, if improper guarding is there, so it becomes the responsibility of the management. Defective agencies like sharp, slippery, inversion. This is basically we are talking about the conditional part of it. Again, the responsibility of management. The machinery layout, the hazardous arrangement. So suppose the layout is not up to the mark, because there are certain guidelines and rules as per the Factories Act, as per the state rules, that what should be the layout, how it should be, how much space should be left out while you place machines. All those things becomes the part and parcel of the management. Usage, storage, overloading, again because of the constraints. The constraints are deliberated. So the constraints are deliberated. So all these things, constraints become an unsafe working condition. Improper illumination. If there is improper illumination, if it's not glass, it's a glare. Improper illumination, that is, if the illumination is not sufficient, there will be strain to the eyes, which can result into an accident. The working conditions are improper. There can be a health hazard also to a certain extent. If there is a glare, sunlight is there, and then basically light also is there. So also that glare also can cause a constraint, the strain on the eye. Improper ventilation. What do you mean by ventilation? Ventilation is basically change of air. The air changes is very important as far as the workplace is concerned. There are some guidelines given by the Maharashtra Factory Rule, the Factories Act, which talk about this many air changes has to happen. About 6 air changes, minimum 6 air changes has to take place in the workplace per hour. So definitely the air changes should be on a higher side than 6. Minimum 6 is the air changes. So proper ventilation by way of natural ventilation or post-draft ventilation. Either of these ventilation is there. Suppose if it is not there, the working condition is not conducive. Unsafe personal protective equipment. Unsafe personal protective equipment means company has given a personal protective equipment, PP, but they say that you have to wear it for a larger amount of time. So that means that even if it is worn out, you have to wear that particular personal protective equipment. Or improper personal protective equipment is given. So then it becomes a responsibility of the management to see that proper, adequate personal protective equipment is given to the workers. Defective hand tools. Hand tools are defective and not replaced after it has worn out. That again a responsibility of the management. So what we have seen that this is again a overall like Henry we have seen that this many number of unsafe act and conditions and result in one accident. So the tip of the iceberg. Likewise, the study or some researches which says that about 15% of accident takes place due to unsafe condition in spite of majority unsafe condition, maximum unsafe condition is prevailing in an organization. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. Here we can see unsafe act 85%. That means due to unsafe act of a person, 85% of the accidents are taking place. Now, operating without authority. That person has not got authority. Means basically a trainee, a apprentice working on a machine directly. He should be a helping hand. But he is directly working on the machine. So that again is not authorized to work. A trainee boiler attendant or a trainee apprentice boiler attendant working on the boiler directly, that is operating without authority. A cleaner driving a vehicle working without authority. Operating at or working at unsafe speed. In the plant, there are some speed limits in the outskirts as well as some forklifts, basically. Those are inside the plant. So those has to follow some limit. Even the machinery has to be set at proper speed. They have to be functioning at a given speed. Unsafe speed is basically there are governors on the machine, like forklift, there are governors. What you do is that you make the governors ineffective and the speed of the vehicle is increased. So that means he is not authorized to do that. He is tampering with the governors, by which he is increasing the speed of that particular vehicle. That is working at an unsafe speed using wastage equipment. Some equipment which are basically worn out, which has got a sharp edges, some knives is being used, which can result into an accident. Go back. Yeah. Taking unsafe postures. Many times we stretch ourselves in spite of not requirement. Again, ergonomics is one part of it, which is the responsibility of the management. But here, unsafe postures, what we talk about is he himself is taking that unsafe posture. It's not a regular phenomena of his, but the thing is, he is not supposed to do that. But he's taking the unsafe posture, which can result into an accident, which is the unsafe act of the person. Working on moving or dangerous equipment. Again, many times you make the guard ineffective. Interlocks are made ineffective. Sometimes the guards are removed. What it means? You are working on a dangerous equipment. Why this is being done? Why this unsafe act? Because the focus of the worker or the operator is on the production, the productivity. They feel guard is a hindrance and then it hampers the productivity. That's the reason they make those guards ineffective and by which they expose themselves to dangerous moving machinery parts. Not wearing personal protective equipment. This happens many a time. Many organizations, this is a challenge to the organization that how to ensure that workers or the operators or for that matter management wear the personal protective equipment. Any foreign material on your body will make you uncomfortable. For that reason, but you have to wear it. You need to make understand the employees, the workers, the contract workers, each and every person, because this is a top-down approach, which is more important. So we have seen many times, even though management has given the personal protective equipment, but the employees doesn't wear it. They feel it's a hindrance, and then they feel that if my job, my work will be hampered to a certain extent, my productivity will be reduced because of this personal protective equipment. So this has to be taken in by the management, and this becomes a part of the training activity, and to ensure that how this can be made more effective. Using improper hand tool, again, lethargy to a certain extent. I don't have a tool right now with me. Tool is in the toolbox. I use some other tools and start working with that tool. That means it's an improper tool. So you need to ensure this, that unsafe act of a person which results into an accident. So most of those accidents, about 85%, is due to unsafe act. But the BBS theory says that 96% of the accident takes place because of the unsafe act. The unsafe act of management, as well as the unsafe act, that means unsafe condition, as well as the unsafe act of a person working. Only 4% is, apart from this 96, 4% is others. It can be unforeseen what we are talking about. So that this, the theory is being presently applied in the organization at 96 and 4. This is the age-old theory which is talking about 85% and 15%. Next slide, please. Let us look at what is this accident, because we are talking about, we are guided by some laws. The laws are the Factories Act. What is this terminology? Reportable accident and non-reportable accident. Reportable accidents are accidents which has to be informed to the factory inspectorate, the local factory inspector, that means the state factory inspectorate. Suppose if any accident takes place in the organization, in the factory, in the plant, and that person remains absent for more than 48 hours, that means 2 days. Even if after 2 days if he is not reported on duty, that has to be informed to the factory inspectorate in a particular format. That means it is a reportable accident. Non-reportable accidents are any accident within 2 days. That means immediately after the accident till second day is non-reportable accident, which need not be reported to the factory inspector. But you need to keep a record of all those accidents for investigation, as well as seeing that the same type of accident is not reoccurred. So these are the primary differentiation of reportable and non-reportable accident. When we talk of accident which has to be reported, we are talking about under the Factories Act, each and every person is a worker under the Factories Act. So there is a terminology in the Factories Act which talks about the worker. So when we talk about worker, it is directly employed or indirectly employed, with or without the knowledge of the employer, is a worker. So any person, be it a contract worker, be it a visitor who comes inside, even if it is not, he is not employed, and he meets an accident inside your plant, it has to be reported to the factory. Any visitor, any guest meets with an accident, it has to be reported in the premises, has to be reported. When we talk of worker, it is employees and contract workers are workers under the Factories Act. So when we talk of reportable accident, again, there is one thing, the serious accident, serious cases. Serious is, suppose if an accident takes place, and we know that that person is not going to come for minimum after 2 days also, minimum 2 days. So you have to report it immediately. You need not wait for 2 days and then you report. If there is a serious case, some amputation is there, some major fracture is there, some major things which we can envisage that he has to be admitted, and definitely he won't be able to report after 2 days. So he has to be, the serious cases has to be immediately reported to the factory inspector over a telephone call or through messages or through letter or through mail. This information has to go to the factory inspector immediately within 4 hours. So that is under the reportable phase. Next slide, please. Now, when we talk of accident, measuring safety, we need to know what is that when we compare two departments, we need to know the performance of that particular department. So let's understand some more terminologies over here. We'll look at the unit of measurement. The unit of measurement is number of accident is unit of measurement, and severity is another unit of measurement. Number of accident is in a particular department, how many accidents have taken place. The severity is number. Severity, or in the factory, how many accidents have taken place. Severity is number of man days lost due to accident is the severity. How many days that person, total, suppose there are 10 accidents, and that 10 out of the 10 accidents, there are 15 days man days lost. So 15 will be the severity. But severity has to be calculated. It's a man days loss. How severity has to be calculated, that we'll see. So number of accidents are X, and the severity is the number of days the person has remained. That is the man days loss. And how the severity rate? So severity rate has to be in line with the number of man days lost, and the frequency rate will be in line with the number of accidents. We'll look at the formula. Number of accidents into it's per million man hours. How many accident takes place per million man hours? That is what is talking about the frequency rate. And man days lost per million man hours is the severity rate, which will bring at par the two departments. Suppose if we want to measure the performance of two departments, like in one department there are 10 persons and there is one accident. In another department there are 100 persons and there is one accident. So then the question comes that whose performance is better? So to bring both the department at par, we have to use this formula. That means both the department man hours will be converted into per million man hours. Per million man hours, what is that frequency rate? We'll talk about the higher the frequency rate is basically the number of accidents are more. So higher the frequency rate means the performance is poor. Lower the frequency rate is performance is better. Always accident lower is better, frequency lower is better, severity lower is better. And as far as severity rate is concerned, it is number of lost time, the days, man days lost. Per million hours, per million man hours, how many man days lost will be in terms of the severity rate. Next slide. So then we can bring both the department at par. Next slide, please. This is about severity rate. Total number of days lost is 10 raised to 6 is million man hours. And total man hours of exposure. How many man hours exposure? Means how many man hours they have worked. There are in a particular department, there are 100 people. 100 into 8 means per day 8 hours working into 26 days in a month. So for that particular month, total man hours is this much. Total number of days lost is 20 days. Into 10 raised to 6, that is per million. So the whole thing is per million man hours work. This many is this number is the severity rate. That's what it talks about. Lower is the better. Next slide, please. Let's look at the cost of accident. There is a cost to the accident. When we talk of accident, it's not an investment, it's a cost. When we talk of training, it's an investment. But let's look at the cost of accident. Employees. Even if you say cost of, I don't have cost of it because he is covered under insurance, he is covered under Workmen Compensation Act, it is through insurance what we get. So let's look at that. What is that? Cost. So cost, when we talk of cost of accident, it is tangible, which can be weighed, and intangible, which can't be weighed. It can't be measured. For employees, what is the cost is loss in wages, tangible. Why loss in wages? You will say the employee gets the wages because it is the duty of the employer to pay the wages to the employees. Even if he meets with an accident, he is at home because the accident took place in the factory. So he has to be paid. Definitely has to be paid. But when we talk of loss in wages, there are some allowances. He won't get that allowances. He will get the basic pay. So that is that loss in wages. He won't get productivity bonus. He won't get the annual bonus which is calculated on for that particular lost days. That won't be calculated. Some conveyance part he will be losing on that. Some house rent part he will be losing in that. The basic pay he will get. The second is incidental expenses in treatment. Suppose if he is taken to the hospital, the whole thing, whole amount, the cost is bared by the company. But some incidental expenses, their family members visiting to the hospital, some small medicine, few medicines. Suppose once he comes home, there are some small few medicines he has to purchase. All those things, incidental expenses, has to be borne by him. Leave medicine, but the conveyance part, the commuting part of the family members, all those things will be incidental expenses in treatment. Reduce earning capacity. It is after he comes back, the skill what he has, the skill that the same skill he won't have. So he will be given some job